Welcome to Mysteries, Monsters, and Mayhem.
The podcast about ridiculousness and killers and monsters and freaky things and fascinating things.
And generic mayhem. Or
Generic?
sometimes specific mayhem.
Very specific. Yeah, as you can maybe tell from us not being able to keep our shit together. By the way, that reminds me, when I'm done saying this, we'll give our warning about language. We didn't start off well, so but luckily we can edit this podcast. Yeah, so warning, not safe for work. There is profanity and death and things like that.
And torture and blood. And
yeah, I try not to get too into the sordid details, but
True.
There are details that are going to come out. So anyway, who are you?
I am MB Partlow.
All right.
I am an amateur cryptozoologist.
Damn it, that's mine.
All right, I'm a cryptozoologist in training.
There you go.
Okay.
You're right. Okay. Is that all you want to say today?
That's all I want to say today. That really is.
All right. Okay. I'm Shannon Lawrence. All right, MB, okay. I've been watching a lot of Letterkenny, in case you can't tell. I am Shannon Lawrence. Oh, I had a whole sarcastic thing I was going to say earlier, and then I totally forgot it. Anyway, writer. You can find me at thewarriormuse.com. That's it.
Yay!
Grumpy parent. Not about my children. About their schools.
Yeah. Oh my God, we have both had so much school stress.
Oh my God.
And I have one. My youngest is in college, and they're still stressing me out.
At least after this year, done.
That's knocking on wood.
Right?
That was me knocking on my head.
I'll have 2 high schoolers next year. Can't wait to get away from this fucking middle school, but
Middle school sucks. Middle school sucked.
Oh.
It just suckity sucked.
Yeah.
How was my week? Well, there's the massive anxiety. But other than that,
Great.
So this week I had the grand new experience of waking up in the middle of the night in the middle of a panic attack, and I was like, well, apparently that's what woke me up.
Oh,
that's a lot of fun.
Not. No, it's not.
So,
my spouse and my boy child are on a road trip, and
I'm so jealous.
I am too. Send me a picture of where they're staying, and I'm like, not fair, because it's like a guest house that they've rented, like
Ooh.
Airbnb instead of a hotel. But my cat, my Siamese cat, who's such a pain in the ass, she is accustomed to spending at least part of the night in boy child's room. Sometimes she spends part of the night in our room, and she has a schedule, see, and the 2 morning people are not here.
Yes.
So she has woken me up multiple times every fucking day that they've been gone, and she may not live to see them return because I am tired.
Her menfolk are gone.
Yes, and so she has the way. See, now I've had to edit this out of multiple podcasts of scratching the door, and it's like that for 5 minutes straight. I don't know. She must have abs of steel, because she just stands up and does that on the bedroom door. And so I'm lying there, and I've got the covers over my head, and I'm just trying to fall back asleep, and I'm not letting her inside. I'm not rewarding that behavior. Doesn't matter. Yesterday she did it once. Today she did it twice. So not rewarding the behavior is not working for me.
There must be something in the air, because this morning at 5 a.m., Evie, our beloved dog, not so beloved at 5 a.m., came to my side of the bed and whimpered until I woke up because she needed to go out. Now, that is much preferable to having her pee on the downstairs bathroom floor,
Yeah.
which she occasionally does. Not often, but occasionally. But I was like, all right. And I got up, and I was so tired. And I go downstairs, and I let her out. And I stand there, and I let her in. I go back up, and I get in bed, and I'm all warm. And I'm like, fuck, I can't sleep.
I kicked her out of the bed. I let her stay in the bedroom yesterday until about 6 a.m. when I was going to bed.
Oh.
And she still woke me up. I'm tempted to just kick her ass outside and let her take her chances with the great horned owls tonight at 5 or 6 a.m. when I want to go to sleep.
Here, go out, Kitty.
Just get outside.
Could you put her in the garage?
I mean, she usually gets let out at about 6:30.
Just let her out a little earlier.
Right? So.
I mean, it's not like you're tying a pork chop around her neck.
No. There was a neighborhood cat, and unfortunately it passed away recently, but it was always outdoors, so I go for late night walks, and I would always see it, and it was Snow White, and it made it. So, my thing with her is always she's silver. So I don't put her outside at night because she's like a giant beacon to the predators.
Very, very visible.
But she's stealthy.
She's feisty. I think she'd be fine.
Yeah. So that may be what happens tonight because it's the owls or me at this point. One of us is going to kill her.
Well, you won't eat her.
No, I will not.
When do they anticipate returning?
They'll be back tomorrow night late.
Oh, wow.
So, because Spouse has to go to work on Tuesday. So, and we're recording on a Sunday. So he has to be back Monday. And luckily, the kids had a 4-day weekend because it's teacher work days or whatever.
Oh,
so
okay.
boy child will have a rest day. And then he'll go back on Wednesday.
Nice.
Yep. And Jeff, he only has to go in for a few hours, really. Right now, his work schedule is 2 days every other week. And it's like a half day. So
that's crazy.
He'll survive. He'll be able to come home and pass out.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. So what have you watched on television?
Letterkenny.
Yay! How far are you? Are you caught up?
I'm in one of the last 2 seasons. I haven't even been paying attention. It's just been on, just auto playing.
Did you see the one with the sleepover yet?
I don't think so. No.
Oh, it's like a slumber party episode. It's so cute though.
Okay.
It is very, very, it's actually very kind of cute for Letterkenny.
All right.
That's in the very last season.
Yeah. I'm just, in my head, everything is like Letterkenny-isms, and it's funny because I'll forget it eventually. I don't retain it like other people do. The whole be able to quote. I can quote all the movies still that I saw through like my 20s, but I no longer retain new shit.
I remember things like allegedly from Letterkenny.
Oh, yeah.
Allegedly.
To be fair. Yeah. So, but it's just every time he says, okay, Katie, okay.
That's what I appreciate about you.
Is that, if I got to one where she just goes, let's not. When he says that. And that made me laugh. So, yeah, I've been watching that. They called out, man, it would be awesome to get a podcast called out on a show like that. Right? But they called out, he was like, I listened to My Favorite Murder. And I was like, damn it, so do I. That's not fair. But, yeah, I was mad jealous.
Yeah.
But they're much bigger. Obviously, podcast that inspired me to start a podcast.
I keep talking about Canada, but
they're not happy. A boot.
Out and about.
Oot and a boot. Say a boot.
Quebec. I'm going to be talking about Quebec later on today. And I could pronounce it any of several different ways.
You always say Quebec, but
I don't think there is a wrong way.
There probably is, but
yeah, yes, but yeah. Guess what I did? I have a TV accomplishment this week.
Wow.
It is actually, yes, an accomplishment. I finished watching Gotham.
Oh.
Yes, you remember that show that ended 2 years ago?
Yeah.
And it was all on my recorded, and I finally looked at it and went, I need to either delete that or watch it. So I powered through and watched it all the way to the end.
Well done.
Finished it. I hope Deanna is listening, so she will know that I finally fucking finished something I started.
Wow.
And in the last episode, here's what killed me. So, like, no character aged. No, except for Selena. Because the very...
right, Catwoman.
Yeah, so the very last episode fast forwards for 10 years. So, obviously, Selena goes from being, like, 15 to being 25. It's hard to have the same actress play that. You don't ever see the kid who was playing Bruce Wayne.
Okay.
You just see him, like, in silhouette and...
Okay.
Yeah. So, when
Creative.
When the show opens, you see Jim Gordon.
Mm.
And he's got some gray in his hair, and he's got this big fucking porn stash. It's awful. It's this big gross...
I like how you say porn stash, but like your hands were over the entirety of your lower face, so I was expecting like a beard.
No, so he's got... And they're just they're giving him crap about his mustache. So then in the next scene, because Bruce Wayne has come back to town, so in the next scene, his mustache is gone and his hair is dyed back to brown. They're all giving him crap about shaving his mustache. Nobody mentions. And so you dyed your hair for Bruce Wayne. Huh.
Oh.
Lee didn't age. What's his buddy? And the Penguin gained some weight. So
well, they had to get him up to Danny DeVito.
He wasn't that big, but he was bigger around. So, but I was like, it wasn't a bad ending. You know, it was a good wrap up, but
that's good. That's like, I keep considering watching How I Met Your Mother because that was all the rage for a while. So of course I stayed way the hell away from it. But I love Neil Patrick Harris, so I was like, maybe I should check it out. And my husband and I were talking about the same reason we don't want to is we heard how much people hated the ending of that show.
Yeah.
It was like the worst ending of a sitcom or whatever.
It was yeah.
So it kind of deters me from watching the show. And I'm like, we could watch it and not watch the last season. Or
parts of the last season are good, but it's the very ending, the twist. It's like...
And the thing is, I already know what the ending is because it was everywhere when it happened. And I was like, well, there you go. Now, because I can't be disappointed because I already know the end of it.
Now, have you gotten the Sci-Fi app yet so you can watch Resident Alien?
No.
Oh, it's so good. It is so, so good.
Even my husband, who is the tech king, was like, another app.
I know, but... I would not say this for very many shows, but for Resident Alien, it makes me laugh out loud every week.
That's awesome.
And some of Alan Tudyk is a national treasure.
A Canadian national? Is he Canadian?
I don't know.
Half of our actors are.
He is a planetary treasure.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's just the physical comedy that he does. And sometimes it's very little things like the expression on his face or something. But he did a whole thing about trying to get used to walking in a human body.
Oh my God. I can picture it.
I stopped, backed up, and watched it a second time and laughed just as hard.
That's what I did with the episode of Psych where they're at a sorority house and the lights go out. And the lights come back up and they're just gone. The two, but Sean and his, what? Damn it. Gus. Sean and Gus are just gone, and like their teacups sitting on the sofa, and the girls are just looking around, and then you go to outside and they're screaming like girls and they're jumping up and down trying to get into the car, and then he like finally stops and he's all and he just opens it. I watched that. And also this scene from Supernatural makes me think of that. So in the episode Yellow Fever, when Dean is a chicken, he's afraid of everything. And he screams at the freaking cat in the locker or whatever. And he goes, that was scary. Like that one I watched over and over and over again. And
the episode of The X-Files where David Duchovny screams like that.
Yes.
That episode, I did.
See, that is an automatic yes. If a man screams like a girl in a comedic sense.
Yes.
I've stressed this before. If a man screams like a girl because he's being tortured, it's not funny.
No.
But then I will die. And I will die, which will make Jeff die every time because he knows how much I love that. I think he, at this point, just laughs at the same time as me because he knows I am going to be rolling.
Oh my God. One day this week, first of all, I laughed so hard. Okay, it was not a great week, but at one point, I'm sitting at my desk, my office, which is in the basement, and we have kind of an open floor plan on the main floor of our house, so you can go from the living room to the kitchen to the dining room to the living room. It's just...
Yeah.
Okay. So Pogo is our 17-pound cat. He's not fat. He's fluffy, but he's not a fat cat. He's just a big...
He's big.
He's a big boy. So I don't know what he was doing. All I can think is spring is coming. And he was like running around and around. He was doing the circuit, but he's running and it sounds like he's got bowling shoes on. I mean, it's just, and then on some of the corners he's skidding out.
Yes.
And I can hear it because it's right over my head. And I start laughing. And I look down and the dog is at the door of my office, poised to run upstairs and investigate.
Right, like what's happening?
And I said, go. She runs up the stairs, which makes me laugh even harder. So the dog comes back downstairs eventually. At this point, I am laughing so hard just at the noises that I can't even stop. Joe gets up from his office in the next room and comes in to make sure I am laughing hysterically, not actually having hysterics. The dog comes back downstairs. Joe goes, honey, I think you're scaring the dog. I was laughing so hard, so I had to let the dog jump up in my lap and
make sure you're
sniff my face and okay.
She's all right. It's fine.
Oh
wow. Athena has a nightly freak out where she runs around and talks and coos and makes all these. Sometimes it's muffled because she's got something in her mouth that she's carrying around. And for whatever reason, at 2 different doorways, the one to Jeff's office and the one at the top of the stairs, she will stare up. And I'm like, there's not a spider. There's nothing there. And then she'll jump up and she's like clawing at it. And then she'll walk around and talk some more. And I'm like, what is happening?
Do you ever catch your cats? They'll jump up on something and sit there and stare intently at the wall.
God, yes.
Not out into the room, but just at the wall that's 6 inches from their face. All right.
Maybe not. No, they like to stare up at the ceiling or behind me. They really like to stare behind me. And I'm like, I hate you.
I don't like that.
Because it's not optimal. The way my house is arranged, the way my living room is, the sofa then pretty much has to be with your back to the open room and the back door. And I'm like, please stop. And then just for the principle of it, I refuse to look behind me. So somebody could just kill me. Except for not, because I'll send somebody behind me.
Yes, you would.
But
yes, you would.
Still.
And after you recommended it and actually handed me the book, I read The Glass Forest.
Oh, yeah. Did you like it?
Oh, my God. It was so good.
Yeah. The way she interspersed and you're in the present, but now you're slowly tracing that story forward of the character that's missing. And you're like, and you have these revelations. And then there's this whole other twist thrown and you're like, It's really good.
It was really, really good.
Yeah.
Because it was like, what? Wait, what? How? Why is this person like this? And then you get in that person's point of view and you get to see the person and it was really, really good. Have you read anything else?
What did I read? So I finished Educated by Tara Westover, which I will say, though, left me deeply conflicted about a lot of things. Because she's pretty insistent through the book that her dad was bipolar. And it bugs me. It's a pet peeve of mine, this is bipolar. And she even mentions, because I was like, it sounds like paranoid schizophrenia. He thinks the Illuminati's after him. He thinks the end of the world is coming. He thinks yada yada. But obviously I just know bipolar from specific facets. My mom is bipolar. Her mom was bipolar. And
a lot of things present differently in men and women.
Yes, but we also have a friend who is out, honest about being bipolar, and he doesn't think the Illuminati's after.
I mean, under a doctor's care,
it seemed to me that this guy could be both, but it just seemed way, way too extreme to be just bipolar. But again, I don't know. It really seemed like paranoid schizophrenia from experiences I've had with people who were, but also some of it rang true for, emotional blackmail basically was a big part of what I dealt with. So some of it was very close and hurtful in reading this book, which was hard.
Yeah, and the way that her family, because she had several siblings, and the way they split, and it was you either got the hell out and had absolutely nothing to do with the core family, or you, I don't want to say drink the Kool-Aid.
Don't say it.
I don't want to say it.
I still plan on doing that for an episode because I hate that term when
you
people
still
use
swallow it hook, line, and sinker.
Yes.
You have to buy into their version of reality 100%, or you have to totally strike out on your own.
Yeah, I was surprised. She made it longer than I think I would have in that situation. She kept going. Every time she was like, and then I went home and I'm like, why the fuck are you going home again?
Yeah.
You're going to die one of these times.
Yeah.
Oh, her dad and her older brother, but her mom, that was a whole different hurt because
the mom had her own issues, but she's also excruciatingly manipulative.
Yes.
That bothered me a great deal.
Yeah. So I just, what things to overcome.
Yeah.
What things. So yeah, that book was hard.
Yeah.
What about you? Did you read anything other than Glass
I
Forest?
did not. That was it. That was it for this episode. But I watched a movie.
Good for you. What was it?
Sometimes I get here and I'm like, I haven't read anything. I haven't watched anything. Apparently, I've been asleep since the last time we recorded.
It's been 4 weeks since we recorded. How did I not do anything? Oh, I can't remember what I watched yesterday.
So I watched The Prom. The musical The Prom.
Oh.
It's on, oh God, I think it's on Netflix. It's either on Netflix or Amazon Prime. And it's a musical.
Okay.
And so these two old Broadway hands who are played by Meryl Streep and
I thought you were going to say old broads, and I was like,
Yeah.
that's rude.
and James Corden.
Okay.
Oh, I just laughed because I remember him in Cats. But they're on Broadway and they open in a new play and it bombs. So they need to do something to revive or redeem their careers. And so they read about this little town that's canceling prom so that this girl who is a lesbian can't bring her girlfriend.
Wow.
Yes. So the people who go from Broadway, there's like a production of Godspell. So you got all those young singers and dancers in the background when that comes in handy. But you've got James Corden and Meryl Streep. And then you've got, in an absolutely brilliant performance, I thought, Nicole Kidman, who played a woman who was a perpetual chorus girl. She could never get the lead. And she just played it just ditzy enough. And she's got like 14 feet of leg.
Yeah.
So she can do it. She was really very good in it. And the young girl who was in it, who's of course a name I cannot remember, she was good.
I don't know. There's a line where I remember every actor's name from everything ever, and then cannot remember a name to save my life.
And
there's that line.
The guy from Key and Peele.
Which one?
The one with the three names.
Keegan-Michael Key.
Keegan-Michael Key. He was in it.
I love him.
He got to play Meryl Streep's love interest.
Oh my god.
And all I could think was, he plays the school principal. And all I could think of is, and it's not a big sex movie, it's not a big make-out movie, so there's not a ton of that. But all I could think was, when I see him kiss Meryl Streep toward the end, is there's no fucking way when he was doing Key and Peele that he thought, someday I'm going to be in a musical. Kissing Meryl Streep. No, there's no way he could have thought, that's going to be my path.
No, highly doubtful. I watched A Funny in a Dark.
Oh.
Okay, so the funny was an older one, 1960s.
Yes.
Irma La Deuce. What was it? Shirley MacLaine and Jack Lemmon?
Yes.
Oh, that was such fun.
I will look up the spelling of that before I put it in.
I have it written down. I could just show it to you later. But she's a prostitute, and Jack Lemmon is a cop, but he's like the only honest cop in the red light district. I forget what the actual name was, whatever the famous name in Paris was for the red light district.
I have no idea.
But he ends up there, and like nobody gives him a heads up, I guess. So he does a raid, and he gets back to the police department his first day, and the police chief was one of the people he arrested who were in the hotel with the prostitute. So he gets fired, and it just he ends up as her pimp, as Shirley MacLaine's pimp, kind of. Wow. Yeah. So it's very roundabout, right? But the antics, it was so funny. I started trying to explain it to Jeff, and he was like, "You know what? This sounds like something I'll watch. So don't tell me don't tell me anymore." But yeah, it was outright funny, and so it's a Billy Wilder comedy. And so then I put out a call for Billy Wilder comedies. Unfortunately, they're all like, "Pay this much on Amazon to watch it."
Oh,
yeah. But his serious ones I could watch, but that's not what I was in the mood for. I'm like Sunset Boulevard or whatever, and I'm all, no, I don't. That's not funny. I don't remember that being funny. But now I want to see The Apartment because somebody recommended that, and then I looked at it on there, and I was all, this sounds funny.
I think I've seen that one.
Oh, and I couldn't watch Some Like It Hot because that one was a pay to watch.
Oh,
right. I've seen that one though, but I wanted to watch it again.
Have you seen The Thin Man?
Is Jeff Goldblum in that?
No.
Why did I think
it's way older. It's William Powell and Myrna Loy.
I don't know. I've heard of it though.
It's really snappy dialogue. back and forth between Nick and Nora Charles.
Okay.
And it's kind of a detective story, and I adore those movies. I'm writing down Billy Wilder movies.
Yeah. And then The Dark. I watched. It's called The Dark and the Wicked.
The Dark and the Wicked. Oh,
it was so good. Like, ooh, it had me in such suspense, and I was so excited when here's the thing. I'm so excited when a movie's good enough to keep me tense, right? Like, that's why I was excited about The Entity, because I was like, right? Because it's rare, because usually I'm watching a horror movie, I'm kind of like, but then I'm enjoying the things that they're doing. Well, sure, but it's not freaking me out. I'm kind of past that, and I want it still so bad. So this one, it's on Shudder, and I don't know if it's a Shudder exclusive or not, or if it just ended up there first, but it's this small, quiet film. It's quiet, and so it feels almost like it would be slow-paced, but it is not at all slow-paced. Like, there's always something happening that has you on the edge of your seat, and it's this brother and sister come back to their parents' farm. The father is dying. He's comatose, but he's at home and he's on oxygen, and the mother's his caretaker. And very quickly into the show, so it's not a spoiler, she has this disturbing scene, and then she is dead. And that's all I'm going to say, so I don't give too much away.
Okay.
But she had told them not, she insisted they not come out. And they find out why, because there is some crazy shit happening on that farm. There is something evil there. There is something that is attacking the dad while he's comatose.
Oh my God.
And it's coming after them, and it's messing with them mentally. But there's these great freaky visuals, and it was so good. Highly recommend.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. It got me.
It's not too oogie for me.
Maybe. It might be.
All right.
It's pretty freaky. Be prepared to throw some popcorn.
Okay. Lots of jump scares.
Yeah. No, there are a few. But,
what gets me is when I'm watching something I've seen before and the jump scares.
Like Creepshow? Was it Creepshow?
Jesus, beer and popcorn in the air.
I like going to movies with people like you that do that, because then it amuses me.
That's why I don't usually buy popcorn or beer. Beer because I don't want to get up and...
You don't want to smell like that when you spill it on yourself either.
No, and first of all, I'm too cheap to pay the price they want at the movie theater. But also, I don't want to have to get up and pee halfway through the movie.
I get it.
So, have you eaten out anywhere interesting?
I did. Okay.
Where'd you go?
Girl Child and I went out last night.
Oh my God.
And so the old depot, there's an old train depot for listeners that's in downtown Colorado Springs.
Which place did you go to?
I went to Brakeman's Burgers. So there used to be a restaurant there called Giuseppe's, and I'd been there, and now there are 3 restaurants, and they have those domes. They have little domes, plastic domes outside with the light. They were full because it was Saturday night. But we went late enough that even though those were full, probably because people had to make reservations, because online you have to, I went there prepared to get takeout. But we went to Brakeman's Burgers, and it was good. I had, instead of a burger at the burger place, I had a breaded chicken sandwich with buffalo sauce, and it was really good.
That sounds kind of yummy.
But here's the amazing thing that we had there. It was they have a bunch of milkshakes. So they have your classic shakes, and they have something called kid shakes. And they also have adult shakes there, for the record.
With liquor in them.
Yes, but the kid shakes, so I got a s'mores. You know how I like marshmallow, even though you don't like marshmallow at all. But... So it was a marshmallow flavored milkshake. Mm-hmm. And then it had chocolate, and you can see like the chocolate sauce drizzled in around it too. And then an actual roasted marshmallow on top with a graham cracker, and there's graham cracker bits in it. Girl Child got one called birthday cake, and so they put actual like birthday cake in it, and they mix it all in. And which is funny because I was like, ooh, right? But when I worked at the pie restaurant, one of the things the owner decided to do when the entire place was in upheaval was do pie shakes, where she wanted to take like, here's this pie, and then we put it in the milkshake and we blend it all up together. And I was like, the servers don't need an extra thing. Because, okay, I worked at Gunther Tootie's. We made hand-spun shakes there.
Right.
Like the real ones with the little thing that comes down. You've got the metal thing. Okay. And it takes time. Like, if somebody ordered a milkshake, you were like, fuck you. But then you went and did it.
It's like when you're in line at Josh and John's.
Yeah, and somebody orders a
milkshake and the whole line is like, ah, man.
Because a real milkshake is a process.
It is. It's not a blender in 2 seconds.
And at that time, the servers were also having to make their own salads and apps and do the serving. Ugh. And the cook's job was fucking easy. But anyway, I digress. So I just thought it was funny that I was like, don't do that. And now I'm like, ooh, birthday cake. But I wasn't the one having to make it.
That's true.
So there's a big difference there. But anyway, oh my God, those shakes were so good. I don't do shakes. They're like 5 billion calories for something that takes me 2 seconds to suck down. But
that's true.
I decided last night, since we were out, that I would have one.
Was it a real one or was it dairy free?
Oh, it was a real one. I had the dairy. Yeah. It was so good.
Ooh.
So I can't go there again. No. So I want to try the sandwich place, which is next to it. And then I forget what the restaurant is. They're the ones, the domes belong to them primarily. But if it's slow, the other places are allowed to use them.
Oh, okay.
Is my understanding when I looked on there. But, so yeah, it's like a more gourmet-ish place. So I'll have to try that one too.
I'll have to wander down
But it's so a train went by while we were in there. It was perfect because the depot, so there's windows along the back. And so Girl Child was super excited about that. So we're just sitting there eating and along comes the train just trundling by us forever.
That would be fun.
Perfect.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
Well, I went back to someplace we've both been.
Where?
Carefree Bar and Grill.
Yay!
Well, actually, I got my boss to order takeout from there.
Yay!
So I got I can't remember what the burger was called because
You still haven't done the stuffed fry bread.
I haven't. I just wasn't. I was like, I'm not that hungry. So I got this friggin' burger it was a bacon cheeseburger with barbecue sauce, and then it was topped with pulled barbecued bison.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I've seen that one on.
It was like I needed a cigarette when I was done. It was just the best burger I've had in a very long time.
Awesome.
And I don't order the big like when we go to Crave, I don't get the burger with all the wild stuff on it, but I just was like, oh, excuse me, don't anybody talk to me. I'm not available. I'm not available. This is between me and the burger.
The one good thing, see, burgers, I can go to any burger place and make Girl Child happy. It's one of the things she will happily eat.
Oh.
And it's in some ways better than pizza and chicken fingers all the time. Speaking of which, I haven't gone there yet, but I've been waiting for Slim Chickens to open.
It is open. It's open. I almost went Friday, and then I thought, you know how long the lines will be?
Yeah. Well, here's my thing, is that I was all excited, and Jeff's like, he knew I was excited. Because I'm always, I hate an overbreaded chicken strip, which is what they usually do, right? Where half of it just tastes like flour. And so then I went to Raising Cane's, and it's the perfect amount of breading, but their seasoning is kind of bland. Right?
Yes.
So then, I was told by Sierra and Sindel, my sister and her friend, that Slim Chickens is really good and one was opening down here, so I've been watching for it. And they have like 20 sauces or something.
We could drive up there someday.
We could. We should.
And get chicken.
But that's the thing is, like, I was waiting so that we could all go, because, I mean, it's chicken fingers, so it should be something I take.
So here's my plan. Is because it's an Arkansas-based company.
Oh.
So.
Oh, yeah, I told Jeff, I was like, there's like 20 there. You could go to one there. Don't do it. I will kill you.
So what I want to do is go to the one here and go, because I'm good. Thing too is in Little Rock. I want to go to one there. Of course, everybody's like, why the hell do you want to go to Slim Chickens? It's like, I went to Arkansas and went to McDonald's. But no, I want to go there so I can compare.
And see if the seasonings are different. Yeah, I was curious about that when we were in New Orleans and there were Raising Cane's all over the place. Yes. And I'm like, is there more seasoning in the South? But why would you blend it down for Colorado, which has so much, say, like Mexican food and green chilies or a thing? I don't feel you would.
Corporate food is often dull.
Yeah.
Shall we? You're going to start this week.
Yes, I am. And okay, so just so everybody knows, this one's one of the more well-done ones that I'll do, or well-known ones that I'll do.
Like,
well done.
I think you do them all pretty well.
Thank you. I'm just going to pat myself on the back. No, well-known ones, because I do try and find ones that haven't been talked about a billion times.
I think we both often do that. Look for the unique.
But his story's always been interesting. But I will say it's going to be dark, but MB is going to do a lighter one to end the program on a lighter note. Just so everybody knows. So if you need to skip it, I guess, just go to MB's. But, so I am talking about... Let me give you some names, and then I'll guess the one people might know. His birth name was Rodrigo Jacques Alcala Buquar. Okay?
That's quite a salad.
Does that mean anything to anybody? He ended up going by Rodney Alcala. And he's probably better known as the dating game killer. So, he was born August 23rd, 1943 in San Antonio, Texas. His family moved to Mexico when he was young, but his father abandoned them while they were there, and his mother ended up moving him and his siblings to California. When he was 17, he went into the Army. So that was something I didn't remember having heard. He served on Fort Bragg, but he had a nervous breakdown in 1964, and he went AWOL and showed up at his mom's house. It wasn't the first time he'd gone AWOL, but he was having dark thoughts, and obviously. So during his time in the military, there was a vague story that he'd attacked a girl during that time. Now, he didn't get in trouble for it. He got released from the military after being diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder, which is one that I found common among serial killers. It was a medical discharge, so it was honorable. So even though he'd gone AWOL, even though he'd attacked someone, he hadn't killed her, but even though he'd attacked somebody, he gets an honorable discharge because it's medical. That diagnosis, by the way, by the time he was convicted later on of his crimes, would be followed by court physicians saying he was also suffering narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, and malignant narcissism with psychopathy and sexual sadism comorbidities. And I quoted those last ones from Wikipedia.
Wow.
In short, dude was a mess, yeah?
It was like he was fucked up.
He was.
What was one of those? Wait, what was that list again?
Narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, and malignant narcissism with psychopathy and sexual sadism comorbidity.
Malignant narcissism.
Right?
I think we know a couple of people.
I think we do. Oh, yeah. So he enrolls at California State University and transfers to UCLA School of Fine Arts in Los Angeles, which he does end up graduating from. But while there, he commits his first known crime. In 1968, 4 years after going AWOL, while he's in UCLA School of Fine Arts, he lures an 8-year-old girl into his car.
Oh.
And they actually, so I watched a 2020 one for this as well, a special, and they had this girl on there, just so you have a little hope here. She's not going to die. And she at first told him no, and he was like, I've got a picture I want to show you. And she's like, no, she's on her way walking to school. And he keeps going, and then he says he'll give her a ride to school. And she's like, oh, okay. And she gets into the car finally, because she says, in her words, she had been taught to be polite to her elders,
Right.
And
yes.
Ultimately, he wanted her in the car. She got into the car, and he said, well, when does school start? And she tells him, and he says, I've got a poster to show you. We have time for me to show you this poster before you go to school. So he takes her to his house. But here's the thing, and how often do you hear this? There is a man in his car who witnesses this. He's kind of watching. The girl's walking, and this car is going behind her and stopping, and then they're walking, and they're stopping. He sees the girl get into the car. He follows the car. Finds out where he's taking him. So when he takes the little girl into his place, this guy goes, finds a phone. He calls the police and tells them where it's... I know, right? So...
Talk about your good Samaritan.
Yes! And again, you almost never... It's people witnessed this and didn't do anything. And there are psychological reasons for that. But this guy was like, okay, this is odd. He didn't know enough to, you can't know. This could be their uncle, and the kid could be having an argument, right? But anyway... But he calls the police, and he says, there's something going on. This seemed very weird to me. And the police respond. They arrive at the house. They kick in the door when nobody answers it. And Alcala, and when they knock, I guess, he kind of started to take off. So there was a cop in the back. The cop busts in the front door. He kicks in the door. And so I watched the interview with this cop, and he was crying while this is still something that disturbs him deeply.
Oh my
from
God.
What he walked
and that was
into.
in 1968?
Yes.
Wow.
So you've got this retired cop. You know these guys are hardened. You know that they use, gallows humor and all this to cover this stuff up. But he was choked up, and then he's crying while he's talking about it because he walks in, and the first thing he sees is blood. Right? He sees blood all over the place. He sees a pair of shoes. He sees this little tiny white dress crumpled on the ground. Oh, God. And he sees coins spread for whatever reason. I don't know if they fell out of the pockets of his pants or something when he'd taken them off. And there's this little girl. So Alcala's running out the back. There's a little girl, and there's a steel bar across her throat because he'd been in the middle of trying to strangle her with it. Oh, my God. And so he's taking off. This cop is screaming, right? He's screaming to the other guy. The other cop thinks he's screaming for help. When because he can't really hear him. He's outside on the back side of the house. So instead of being back there when Alcala comes out, it just works out perfectly for Rodney Alcala. This cop comes running around the front to assist the other officer. So Alcala gets away. But in the guy, they're interviewing the officer again. He's crying. He says, I had to make a choice. Do I chase this guy, or do I help this little girl who's lying there, who's been beaten, who's been God knows what else because she's naked? And he said, the only choice for me was to stay and help this little girl. I can tell he feels some guilt because he didn't catch Alcala then. Right. But he absolutely made the right choice. Yeah. She almost didn't make it, just so you know. So, she was in the ER. There was all this stuff. So he'd been trying to strangle her, but by then he had already raped and beaten her severely. So, let me see. I had her name somewhere. Well, I'll bring it up later. So, anyway, she does survive. Her parents, because he got away, her parents flee with her. They moved to Mexico. They don't know where this guy is. They don't know if he'll come back after him. And so anyway, I'm going to come back to that. So a warrant is put out. The family is in Mexico. They're gone. Whoop. Alcala doesn't come back to his apartment. He's gone. They put out the warrant. He's disappeared. He has changed his name. He went all the way over to New York. Damn. Enrolled at NYU under the name John Berger. Berger. And he studies film there. He takes a class under Roman Polanski while he's there.
I would spit, but I don't spit.
I know, that's the thing. I was like, another prize winner. Right there. So, terrifyingly, while he's going to NYU, he gets a job in New Hampshire as a counselor at a children's art camp.
Of course.
1971. During his time there, these two girls go for a walk, and they go up the dirt lane, and it starts to rain. So they run into the post office. And in the post office, by this time, he has been put on the 10 most wanted fugitives list. And these girls are stuck in the post office, and they're looking around, and lo and behold, there is a wanted poster with a different name on it for one of their counselors. So, rain stops. They go back. They go to the dean of the camp, and they tell him. And he looks into this all, and he's like, holy shit. He calls the police. So Alcala does get arrested, and he gets taken back to California. He's extradited, and he is tried for the attack on the 8-year-old. Her name, here it is, Tali Shapiro. Shapiro, I think is how it was said. But her parents had fled with her to Mexico. They refused to bring her back. So without her able to testify against him, this is just a sole crime against her, they can't convict him. So
I don't blame my parents, though.
I don't, but at the same time, had they let her come back, how many women would have survived? So, I was very conflicted watching that part, so I'm like, I totally get it. As the parent, you want to protect her. On the other hand, other women they were tortured. And, but they do manage to get him to plead guilty to assault. So he spends 17 months in jail. Then he gets out. At that time, there was this, if you can prove that you're rehabbed, we'll let you out way early. So he only spends 17 months. Because, of course, he was a charismatic guy.
I bet he was a model prisoner.
I'm sure he was. So he gets out. They're like, he's doing great. 2 months after he got out, he gets caught by a park ranger. He's smoking pot with a 13-year-old girl. So they
as one does,
feel, some sources said she was assaulted, but on 2020, they just said they were sitting there at this park. It was on an overlook, and they were smoking pot. So it sounded like it hadn't gotten anywhere yet.
I was going to say yet.
Now, he gets in trouble for, he's on probation, right? So he's smoking marijuana. He's with a minor, even though. So anyway, he does end up serving 2 more years, and then he gets out again. Then he asked his parole officer for permission. This is a man who had fled once to New York. He asked his parole officer if he can go on a trip to New York City in 1977, and the fucking idiot approves it. Off he goes. He goes gallivanting off to New York.
What was his reason for going to New York?
Don't know.
Oh, Jesus.
So while there, he murdered Ellen Jane Hover. I think it was Hover. She's 23 years old. She is the goddaughter of Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr.
Oh, my God.
Her body is found. Now, this wasn't attributed to him until much later, but her body was found on the Rockefeller estate grounds. It's believed he lured her out by saying he wanted to photograph her. And this was his big MO. He was, actually, the pictures are pretty good. He had graduated from the fine arts school. He was a pretty professional photographer. He did actually sell his photos for money, which I mention again later. But, so that's the thought. And he admitted he'd taken her out to photograph her. But that had nothing to do with her death. And the reason they were able to connect them eventually is because when he was there, she had written on her calendar John Berger on that date.
Of course.
Now, bearing in mind, though, that New York, he's not on there. They have no idea who John Berger is at this point. And so there's no connection to that name, but they have that in the records for later. So he goes back to LA. He gets a job for the Los Angeles Times, even with his record, as a typesetter. The Hillside Strangler crimes are occurring, right? He does get questioned because he's a known sex offender, but they decide he's not connected to that. And he goes on his way. And at this point, so he's heavily doing the photographing thing. They will later find around 1,000 photos that he's taken. And this is one of the reasons he's more well known. But I've also heard, and I didn't read about this last night, but I had heard this in the past, that he would go, like, knock on doors and be like, hey, you want photos taken? But maybe I'm confusing him because there's a couple that did the photo thing.
Okay.
So that could very well be. Note that. But he is regularly photographing he's photographing teenage males, and then he's photographing young girls and grown women. So these are his interests.
Kind of a weird...
Yeah. And he always says, oh, I am a professional photographer. I'm putting together my portfolio. Let's go out and take photos. And so a lot of people do that. And many of them allowed him to photograph them in the nude. And some of them were in sexually explicit poses, like they maybe got jiggy with it afterwards. Who knows? His coworkers at the paper said he would show them even the nude and sexually explicit photos all the time. Like he was bringing his photos. He was very proud of these photos. And he was making money off of them, selling them to buyers in New York. And some of them were selling to pornographic mags and stuff like that. So,
wow.
In 1978, in the middle of his crime spree, he appears as a contestant on the dating game. They did no background checks.
Wow.
On these people that they were hooking women up with to send them out on dates.
Wow.
0 background checks. Because he was a convicted sexual predator. It would have come up. Can you believe that? That's mind-blowing to me.
Yes, I can.
This show had been going on for like 2 decades almost. I mean, it started in the 60s, and this was like a revival or something because they mentioned wanting to sex it up. They were trying to make it more sexy to get more people watching it.
Oh my God.
And so they encouraged him to do the dirty answers. And like his was, at one point she says, if you were a food, what would you be or something? He says, I'm a banana, a good looking one. You want to peel me? Like they're doing this stupid.
Right.
Okay. So he wins.
Oh my God.
She chooses him. And by the way, anybody can watch this. It's available all over the place online. You can watch him on there. You can see how you can get a sense of the creepy, but also of the charming, right? He was giving the better answers. So he wins and they meet. And the woman actually ended up refusing to go on a date with him. I think her name was Cheryl Bradshaw, something like that. She decides, this dude, he's creepy. She says he's too creepy. She won't go out on a date with him. And so I saw multiple places where experts said this probably triggered some of the crimes that happened next. And I'm like, because he had been turned down, narcissist being turned down like that. And I'm like, bullshit, he would have done it anyway. Because you don't get to pin that on her.
No.
That pisses me off. You don't get to say it's her fault that he went and did these things. He was already doing these things.
And it was sort of a public...
Yeah.
refusal. But no, it's absolutely not her fault.
No, he would have done it. But she said, I'm sure he went and committed several of his crimes after being turned down by her. And she didn't turn him down on TV,
Right.
that all happened afterwards, but still. In 1979, he assaults and kills a 12-year-old girl, leaves her body in the foothills. Her friends said...
Foothills of...
California, in LA. Her friends said a man had come to the beach and asked to photograph them before this happened, and they had said no at the time. So he found her later, though. He did not take her when she was with her friends. She borrowed one of her friend's bikes because she was then late to get to ballet practice, I think it was.
Okay.
And that's when he got her, is when she was riding her bike there. And they think he offered her a ride, and she was running late, so she said okay. Because she'd already seen him once. There's this is an adult. Yes. Yeah. Anyway, these girls were able to describe him for a sketch artist. And I should be posting that sketch. It's pretty good. Like, when you look at him and you look at the sketch, like, damn. Good job, girls. Good job, sketch artists. So the police put that image out, and his parole officer recognizes him. They search his mom's house, because that's where he's been living since he got out. And they find a receipt for a storage room in Seattle. And they go there. They find this little girl's earrings.
Oh.
In the storage room. This is also where they find his photos, and they find some other things that come up later. So they arrest him. In 1980, he got convicted for her death and sentenced to death. But it was overturned by the California Supreme Court because his previous sex crimes had been brought up and shouldn't have. The jury should have never known about his... I hate that rule, by the way. They're like, we don't want the previous convictions to muddy because they need to just look at the current case. And while I understand that, I feel there's a lot of cases that if you don't know the background, you can't get to the correct... I hate it. So anyway, it gets overturned. He's tried a second time. Now, I will say he is in prison then from 1979 forward. Okay. He gets tried a second time, convicted, overturned again because they felt there were issues with the defense. So his lawyers are doing exactly what they're supposed to do, and they're winning. Wow. Right? Wow. They're not winning initially, but they're winning on getting it overturned. But during all this, at some point his DNA had been taken. So while he's sitting there in prison waiting to be retried again, we are all the way to 2003.
What?
Yeah, because he kept getting retried, and he was kept in prison while this was happening.
Well, good.
So effectively... But I was like, really? I didn't think that was a thing. But since he was since he got convicted and that. So anyway, they're preparing it. All of a sudden, DNA is a thing. And they had taken this DNA. Well, they get hits in 2003 while he's awaiting trial. In 2004, 4 more rape murders are attributed to him, including one woman previously thought to have been a Hillside Strangler victim. Nope. Semen matches his DNA. Ooh. One of these victims' DNA matches DNA found on another pair of earrings found in the storage room. So he was keeping his little trophies. Mostly it was his photos, but he was also keeping earrings. Okay. Oh. So these women were killed between 1977 and 79 in California. Another cold case, that of a TWA flight attendant in Manhattan in 1971, so when he was out there going to NYU, right, has now also been attributed to him as of 2011. Yeah. In 2010, he was charged for the 12-year-old girl. Her name was Robin Samso. I knew I'd mentioned it somewhere. Why did I not put it the first each of these times? So anyway, the 4 additional cases found in 2004 by DNA and fingerprint matches, they are also added to that charge now. So that is one of the good things about him still being in there. They were able to, they did have to make motions. His defense team was saying, no, this should not be allowed. It's different because there's no DNA to connect him in the Robin Samso crime, which is the 12-year-old girl going to ballet class. So these shouldn't be the same because these are going to be 2 different types of convictions. The judge ends up letting them be tried together. So there were also fingerprint matches at this point. They had all kinds of evidence. His original attorney dies. He decides to represent himself.
That's always a mistake.
It's always a mistake. So anyway, but narcissism,
right now, where a woman wants to represent herself, and the judge was like, "I have to let her."
He can't
talked to her, and
yep, every time. I think that you probably have to have a narcissism disorder to be. I mean, didn't Ted Bundy also?
I don't remember.
Represent himself some. You have to be narcissistic to be like, yeah, I'm going to represent. I know better than all the attorneys, unless you're an attorney, and even then, I think you don't want to represent yourself. But anyway, here's the fun part. He questions himself on the stand.
No.
He uses 2 different voices. He uses a deeper voice to be the attorney, and he calls himself Mr. Alcala. So while sitting on the stand, he would say, Mr. Alcala, is it true? So,
okay.
I was like, yeah, dude, you're sane.
Yeah, how could you...
And how do you expect the jury to take you seriously?
I would have been ejected from the jury because it would have been a cat situation all over again.
You would have just been laughing your ass off.
I would have been like, wait, really? Really?
The second he did that, Mr. Alcala, I would have died. Right then and there, I would have been laughing, and they would have been like, the jury needs to control themselves. And I'd be like, it's just me. You don't have to talk to everybody, just talk to me. Anyway, he plays the video of himself on the dating game because he's trying to claim. He said, yeah, I was wearing earrings. Those earrings, Robin Samso's, those earrings are mine, but there's no earrings in the video. He wasn't wearing an earring. And one of the guys that was on the show with him, one of the other contestants, was like, I would have noticed if he was wearing an earring because that wasn't a thing then for men.
Right.
It didn't become a thing until later. So, all right, you ready for this?
Oh, God.
In his closing argument, he plays the song Alice's Restaurant by Arlo Guthrie.
Why?
Because it's it said that a guy is confessing something to his psychologist in the song or something, to his counselor about wanting to commit a crime or committing crime. I don't remember.
Yeah,
now I want to go.
But
I don't know what argument he thought he was making.
He actually is talking about how you go in and see the therapist and you shout, kill! I want to kill!
That's the part he played.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Like, what are you what? And why are you playing your dating game thing if you weren't wearing an earring? Why do you put up video to prove you're wearing an earring? So, okay, dude is bad shit. And he was all smiles and charm, of course.
Of course.
So when it came time for sentencing, he told the jury they should give him life, not death. Because if they gave him the death penalty, they would be making themselves murderers too. So he tried to guilt them. So anyway.
Nice try.
I will say that, by the way, it's important to note that Tally, that first victim, the 8-year-old whose family had fled with her to Mexico, she was an adult when this happened. She came and she made a point of testifying against him in court. She was like the star witness.
Good.
So it was amazing. I saw an interview with her. Good for her.
I probably would have blubbered through the watch.
I don't think she did it all. I mean, I think she was very direct.
I mean, watching
it? Yeah. Dude, the cop had me all emotional because he was struggling so hard and he was just like, just walking into that room, like that was the picture that stuck with him forever. It was a 2-pound steel bar that was overthrown. He'd been pushing
on it. Oh, God.
Anyway, the jury found him guilty on 5 counts of first-degree murder. Some of the photos he took through the years that were stashed in that storage room have been released to the public. So you can look up the photos to see if you recognize anybody. They're good photos. They're good portraits of people. I was looking at them, I was like, okay. Because there's another big photographer killer, and I can't for the life of me think of who it is right now, and it's probably the one that knocked on doors. But their pictures weren't professional looking. They weren't, they were it's just how they lured women out, and because they like to have those pictures for their collection.
Right.
This dude really did know how to photograph people. But that's the thing. Those pictures are very clear of these women.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the other one's case, a lot of them you're like, it could be, couldn't be.
Okay.
So they're a lot harder. But anyway, they were only able to release 120 of them in 2010 because about 900 of them were too sexually explicit. There was nudity that they couldn't cut right to show you. So some of them, you can tell in some of the pictures, it'll just be like a framed headshot, right? Because their shoulders are bare. You can tell they were probably nude in the photo. Since they put them out, in 2 of the photos, they believe the women were already dead in the photos. So anyway, since then, 21 women have called in identifying themselves in the photos. They did live. So he did not kill 1,000 people. Wow. They can't put out the ones of the teenage boys because those ones were sexually explicit. Oh. But yeah, 21 women, actually in the first weeks, it was 21 women. So it might be more now.
Wow.
Identify themselves, so they were okay. They were able to talk about what he did, how he lured them, so they got a lot more information about how he did this from those women. Some families, there were at least 6 families that came forward and said, this looks like our family member who disappeared, but they have not been able to like close those cases or prove anything. There's no body. There's no nothing. So there are at least 6 families who feel that they see a relative who they never saw again after that time.
That's so horrible.
There is, in 2013, someone was definitively recognized. Her body was found, had been found later and unidentified. It was in Wyoming. And so somebody recognized her. They were able to get DNA or something. They were able to figure out that this body they'd found before was her. So one person was definitively identified from it. There are still over 100 photos available online for people to look at. I'm going to put up a couple of them.
Right.
But
you can't put it, but you can put up a link.
See, I tried to find one that had all of them. So I'm still going to try before then when I'm actually putting up the links. So hopefully.
Okay.
Because like I found one link and it only had a few of the pictures. And I'm like, where's the 100? So anyway, I'm going to look. So, and I've seen them posted on Facebook pages. There are a lot of internet sleuths that are very actively working to try and hunt down women from both of these photographer killers. And like I read a thread. It was fascinating. They were able to figure out where it was in this picture. Because the other person, he would take them out to fields, Alcala. And out to fields, his apartment. So there were very definitive places. But the other killer, he was taking pictures of them at work. He was taking pictures. So there's one girl who waitressed, and they were able to figure out that this restaurant that had been long closed, and I think it was also in California, but it might not have been. And they were like, that's the such and such. And then they were able to contact like the old owner and it was amazing. So anyway, people are working on this, but you can only do so much. In 2013, he pled guilty to the TWA flight attendant and Sammy Davis Jr.'s goddaughter, Hover, in New York. And because all they could do, the trial's dragging on, at this point, he's fighting his death sentence back in California still. He goes ahead and he just pleads guilty because there is no death penalty in New York. So he knows they're just going to throw another life sentence at him, and that's all he wanted. He just didn't want the death penalty. He was totally cool with the life sentence. Like, he wasn't even trying to claim he wasn't doing shit anymore. Okay. His convictions are for 5 murders in California and 2 in New York. Those are the only convictions he's had, but there are felt to be a lot more women, at least, that he killed. At this point, it is not known that he killed any of the teenage boys. So, and of course, little girls, though, there are also pictures of little girls in there. Like, think of the ones he approached on the beach, right? I'm sure there were plenty of little girls. Oh. I mean, I had the whole, you should be a model thing from people, and I was all, nope. Because I didn't believe in strangers at that point. But there are felt to be more in also Washington State and Wyoming. So 4 states, basically, are on the radar. Right. And there are cases in each of those states that they have looked at. But, for instance, the Wyoming officers, they decided he's already serving life sentence. He's already got a death sentence. Right. So we are not going to try this case. And so that's true. They're kind of looking at it because they want to be able, they always will want to be able to close these cases. These people who do this don't do it for fun. Right. These cases stick with them until they're solved. So they are still trying to put together the proof, but they're not going to put, the cost to the public out there to do a trial for somebody who's already due to die. He will forever be in prison.
So is he still alive?
Yes. Okay. I believe so. So one of the things he was known for was strangling the victims until they passed out, then letting them come to, then doing it again, and doing that over and over and over again.
Oh my God, that's so horrible.
Yes. And for the young girls he killed, his thing was always just offering them a ride. You know, I'll give you a ride to school because you're running late. I'll give you a ride to ballet class because you're running late. But for the women, and possibly for those boys, who knows, the teenage boys. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. It just seems like he hadn't. And they haven't connected any just doing searches through. Because that's something else they do. Obviously, they have these photos they search for missing through the missing files. But for the women, it was always, I'll photograph you. And he would also pose, some of his victims were found in sexual poses. Mm-hmm. So he would pose them after death as well. So that was the thing.
That's just sick.
I will be posting the ABC News link that has some of the photos and some information on it on the page. But my sources were Wikipedia, Biography, and Murderpedia for this one.
Murderpedia.
Murderpedia!
You make it sound very exciting.
I know. It is exciting.
I mean, Murderpedia. Da, da, da.
So cheerful a song for such a site.
So, I'm going to pull out my soapbox. Don't you just love it when I pull out my soapbox? I'm going to talk about the Great Maple Syrup Robbery. This is the most fantastical agricultural crime ever committed.
Nice. I like that description.
It is. Yeah. So in the year is 2012. So this isn't that long ago. This isn't something that happened in 1911 and there was an axe.
Yeah. Damn it.
Right?
You know what? Axes are heavily underutilized at this point.
I was trying to work a hatchet in. I could not. So the year's 2012. Canadian maple syrup is worth almost $1,400 a barrel, which is way more than crude oil.
Jeez.
So,
yeah, I know because I bought some
crude oil?
Organic maple syrup.
It's
and I don't like it.
So
I know. Ooh, you guys should see Emmy's face.
It's like,
and I knew.
It's like she just said she was an alien.
Listen, I tried, but I grew up on corn syrup or whatever the fake stuff is.
This is Butterworth.
And so the real syrup is not at all.
And I grew up on the real stuff. So there are approximately 58 gallons in a barrel. So it's $24 a gallon. Back then, 2012. Gas, just to give you a comparison, gasoline was an average of $2.14 a gallon, and milk was about $5 a gallon.
Yikes.
Yeah, so this is the good stuff.
For the record, I still use it in my steel cut oats as a sweetener, but not too sweet.
So you can put it in oats. You can pour it on pancakes.
I don't like put pancakes.
It's delicious.
I like corn syrup on my pancakes.
It is delicious on vanilla ice cream. It really is. I'm telling you.
Okay.
And people now you make craft cocktails with bourbon.
Oh
and
yeah,
maple syrup. And also, fun fact. And if Nikki's listening, this is a real fun fact, not one of your grotesque fun facts. She's like, fun fact, and it's always something horrible. But
I feel that.
2 tablespoons of pure maple syrup provides 35% of your daily needs for manganese and 15% of your riboflavin.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
I wanted to set the stage. I am a complete freak. Everybody who knows me knows. I am a complete freak about maple syrup.
I should have had a camera ready just to take a picture when I said I don't like it.
No, I know plenty of people who don't.
I know, but you looked positively aghast.
The way I look at it is more for me.
Right. You get all the gin.
All the gin.
You get all of the maple syrup, and I get all the marshmallows.
Yes.
And mac and cheese if I really want, but it's not like I'm falling over myself for mac and cheese.
So, have you ever heard of the Federation of Quebec Maple Syrup Producers?
No. They sound important to themselves.
So, of course, being in Quebec, it's written out in French, so the abbreviation is the FPAQ. I'm just going to call them the Federation. FPAQ. They have been likened to a cartel. Yeah. Because it's a very sticky, very sweet cartel, though.
Wah, 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 wah.
One of my sources, there's a website called soyummy.com where I found a mention in this. I looked at Wikipedia. I looked at Pure Maple Syrup of Canada website. And there is a Vanity Fair article written about this called Inside Quebec's Great Multi-Million-Dollar Maple Syrup Heist, written by someone named Rich Cohen.
All right.
So he said, here's a direct quote when he's talking about the Federation. He calls it an iron-fisted cartel having established a stranglehold on that honey-flavored elixir, which indicates to me that he's never actually tasted maple syrup. Yeah, if he thinks it
tastes like honey.
It doesn't taste anything like honey.
It's not.
No. They're both sweet.
And sticky.
But it does not...
Viscous, even.
Yes. So, I don't know why anyone would want to cross these people, because they represent... This is not past tense. This is current tense. They represent roughly 75% of the global maple syrup supply.
I'm sorry. This really makes you want to write a fucking ridiculous crime caper.
Right?
With the syrup cartel coming after you. Like, you just imagine trying to tell somebody that they're trying to kill you, and you're like, it's the Syrup Federation.
Except they'd all have French Canadian accents.
And
nobody would ever understand a fucking word they said.
What? The Federation.
Okay, so they maintain, here's something else that the Federation does. They maintain a strategic reserve of maple syrup. Yes, I almost said that with a straight face. To me, I once had almost 3 gallons of maple syrup in my fridge, and I felt like the wealthiest woman in the world.
I'm just picturing GW now. Strategery.
Okay, so the reserve is housed in warehouses across rural Quebec and small towns. And here's apropos of I don't know what, an interesting factoid from Cohen's article was that New York State, which of course I think is the superior maple syrup, New York State actually has 3 times the maple trees that Quebec has.
Wow.
If they ever organized their shit
and made their own federation,
they could, yeah. So,
oh my God, it would be a war. It would be a syrup war. That's amazing.
Right?
I just kind of want to go to New York to organize. I could do that shit. I could organize people. I will organize them into a federation, make my own cartel, and then just leave. Like, I don't need to. I just want to stir up shit.
I can introduce you to syrup people.
Yes.
I come from syrup people. We're a very sweet bunch.
Were you known to run through the woods with those little dealy bobbers and you stick in the tree and just drinking syrup from trees?
Well, that's not how that works. It's sometimes called heavy water, like the water from.
That doesn't sound heavy at all.
Because you have to boil you have to take the sap and boil it down for hours and boil the water out. You can't. There are people during the Maple Festival who will cook hot dogs in maple water.
Okay.
And just sell to the kids, and they'll make the maple syrup cotton candy. You can't see me, I'm gesturing.
I know, she's making cotton candy right here with her ghost cotton candy.
So here's how it works. Quebec's bulk producers are required to join the Federation, which inspects, tastes, and grades the syrup. Now, some is sold immediately, but the rest goes into the reserve. Producers are paid only when the syrup is sold, and the Federation keeps $54 for each barrel sold. So here's the thing. Cohen, who wrote this article for Vanity Fair, talks about going to one of these warehouses. The way he describes what he expected is kind of like what's that Arnold Schwarzenegger movie where he's the robot who comes back from the future? Terminator. Okay. It's a cross between a Terminator factory and an old Batman movie where there are open vats of acid.
That you can fall in and die.
Yes. And rickety boardwalks. And that's what he expected. He expected big open vats that people could fall into. Because what a maroon. That's how you store anything edible, is in big open
vats that, yes, you can get all the dust and rat droppings.
Okay, so he was surprised, nay, shocked, to find tidy stacks of gleaming barrels instead of open vats and sticky walkways. And he constantly makes fun of Canadians in this whole article.
That's an American pastime. U.S. pastime.
Yes. Okay, so in over a span of months from 2011 to 2012, 540,000 gallons, which is roughly, it's over 9,000 barrels, were stolen from a Federation warehouse in Saint Louis de Blanford.
Steal some shit from them if it was worth that much money.
Right?
Move some syrup on the black market.
So, the place where it was stolen from, because I know some people are geographically inclined, I am not. It's roughly halfway between Quebec City and Montreal. The street value, and that's what they called it. I didn't make that up. Shannon can't even keep a straight face. She's talking about murder and rape and dismemberment.
Rolling eyes.
I am talking about missing maple syrup.
I love it.
But the street value was over $13 million.
It's worth more than cocaine.
It is. This is the highest value heist in Canadian history. The look on your face is priceless.
Man.
So what happened? So it's like, how does one steal this much syrup?
Yeah.
One might ask.
It
was done gradually over several months. What they would do, it's stored in these white barrels that are only inspected once a year.
I wondered how the barrels could be described as gleaming. That makes more sense now.
Yes. So the thieves would remove the barrels to remote sugar shacks. That is what you call, well, we call them a sugar bush, but a sugar shack is where you make maple syrup.
Sugar bush sounds dirty, so you really sugar shack.
Okay, but they would take the barrels to remote sugar shacks, siphon out the syrup, and replace it with water, then return the barrels.
Oh.
Right? Clever. But here's how they got caught. They eventually got a little bit too confident, and they were just siphoning out the syrup without bothering to refill the barrels. So what happens is, first, the stolen syrup was trucked south to Vermont and east to New Brunswick and sold off in small amounts to avoid suspicion. So nobody pulled up and said, you want 78 barrels of syrup. It was, and most of these, the word the article used was not sold, it was trafficked.
Nice.
I love it. Yes. Mostly it was sold to legitimate syrup distributors who never suspected anything.
I mean, it was legitimate syrup. So.
Yeah. Syrup laundering. Right? Right? Look, and you can see the laugh on the...
It's amazing.
So the gig was up in the fall of 2012. The annual inspection took place. So what happens is the inspector climbs the barrels. Mm-hmm. You can't climb empty barrels. They fall.
You fall down. You go boom.
Yeah. The empty barrels don't weigh very much. The full one weighs 620 pounds. So they were like, oh, it must be a fluke. And they start opening barrels. And not only do they find so many empty ones, but also water. So the police did recover hundreds of barrels. But remember, there were over 9,000 stolen, and they recovered hundreds. And 17 men were arrested related to the theft, but the rest of the syrup was never recovered.
It's in a sugar shack.
That just delights me, the fact that it was never recovered.
That there's like a hidden treasure of syrup.
So here's something I didn't know. So I've got a list of some of the perpetrators. So Richard Valliere, the accused ringleader, was sentenced in April of 2017 to 8 years in prison, plus a fine of $9.4 million, Canadian dollars, but still. And here's something I had never heard before. He gets an extension of 14 more years in jail if he doesn't pay the fine.
Okay.
I was like, I kind of like that.
Yeah.
Raymond Valliere, his father, was convicted of possession.
Of syrup.
Of stolen syrup.
Stolen goods.
Etienne St. Pierre, a New Brunswick-based syrup reseller.
Reseller? I don't like it.
Avec
food.
Avec Caron, the insider whose spouse owned the FPAQ warehouse, the Federation warehouse, was sentenced to 5 years in prison plus a $1.2 million fine. And Sebastien Jutras, a trucker involved in the transport of stolen syrup, served 8 months in prison.
Okay, fair enough. He was just the trucker.
He's
like the getaway driver.
What cracks me up is that there's an episode of the sitcom Mom.
Yeah.
Where they go and buy a barrel of maple syrup that fell off the back of a truck. And it just cracked me up. The whole thing just cracked me up. But now having read this, I'm like, oh my God, it's a thing.
It's real
an actual
syrup trafficking.
thing. There's syrup trafficking. There's a cartel. And they keep and the article did, I will say, I've cracked on this guy, Cohen, who wrote this article, because he went into it with a lot of preconceived notions, and he spent a lot of unnecessary time making fun of Canada and Canadians. However, his writing style, he's a good writer.
Yeah.
He is a very good writer, and he could have done this. He could have done it better. He could have not gone for the low-hanging fruit or the low-hanging spigots. The low-hanging sap buckets.
That's right. He could have written a quality article.
But he also did talk about how the mechanics of how the Federation works and how they keep prices up, and you control the supply, you can control the prices. Yeah. And I'm like, the fact that they control the global
come
supply,
on, New York.
Right?
Fight back.
And it's now I will say this is an unsubstantiated rumor. I couldn't substantiate it in the time I had. I've often heard when you go to a tourist stop in Vermont and you buy maple syrup, it's Canadian. They keep the Vermont maple syrup for themselves.
Which is weird because when we went to Idaho, we could not find, remember, Idaho potatoes. They were all from elsewhere because they were actually selling all of it out of state because it was such a big seller. And I guess people in Idaho are like,
potatoes.
Mexican potatoes are fine for me. I don't know why they were French there, but
I would have thought potato chips would have been.
Yeah, no.
Potato pancakes, potato.
It was underwhelming, the potato-ness of Idaho.
It really was. Although I did get that shot glass. I got a very ugly potato shot glass for Joe for his imaginary shot glass collection.
We have a shot glass collection, and I was finally like, can we just get rid of this? Because we don't do shots. I used to do shots. I don't do shots anymore. I'm like, why do we quit getting new ones, first of all? Because every time he'd go to a Hard Rock Cafe, right, anywhere on his work travels, and he would get one, and I was like, please stop.
Well, I guess I can see, as a souvenir, you know.
It's small. It's portable. Now we get magnets.
We get refrigerator magnets. So we've always, the girls and I joke all the time whenever we go somewhere about, let's get a shot glass for your dad's imaginary shot glass collection. And we never do, because he's like, I was like, do you want me to bring you a shot glass? And he's like, no, why? I have one.
I have one.
I have one. I'm good. He's got the little metal one that's a half jigger on one side and a full jigger. Yeah, he's like...
the good one.
He measures when he makes a drink. Whereas I just free pour. And he's like, on the floor again, are you?
That was one of the things I wanted to start learning when I was doing some, light bartending as a server at the restaurant. It was like I wanted to just do the lift up your hand over it and see, so you could, because that was how you would learn, right? Using the little jigger or whatever, you would go foop, foop. Okay, that's how long it takes to pour half an ounce or an ounce, or so most of ours were like 2 ounces or 1 ounce, right? So, yeah, that's what I want to start doing.
Now, I freehand it. He's like, how strong do you want that? I don't know.
More. That's how strong I want it. More.
Well, he knows if I say, would you please make me a gimlet, it just means, would you please make me a double? He's like, I don't even ask anymore. But we did learn, if I come home at 8 o'clock at night and say I would like a drink, do not give me a gimlet, because that fucks your sleep up really badly.
I thought wine was supposed to fuck up sleep really badly.
I think probably alcohol in general. But yeah, apparently for me, hard liquor after a certain time is just a really bad idea.
Okay.
So.
No shots for you?
No shots for me. No flaming shots. No.
Maybe the flame will take away the potency.
You know me. How long would it take me to set myself on fire?
Fun times.
You can find
that was
us.
a much better way to end that than on
set myself on fire. Thank
murder.
You.
No, the whole story, you dork.
It was a sweet story.
Oh God.
Find us on Facebook at Mysteries, Monsters, and Mayhem.
And on the web at mysteriesmonstersmayhem.com. You can email us at mysteriesmonstersmayhem@gmail.com. You can submit stories to us. Tell us about your great green bean escapades. Are they trafficking sugar in your area of the world? We want to hear about it.
Tell us about your great uncle Hector who...
Have you drunk heavy water straight from a tree?
Tell us your maple syrup stories, but also tell us your family's crime-related stories.
And you can do that by email or on the form on our website. You can find our episodes on our website. You can find them at pretty much all of the podcast
places.
Formats. What the hell are they? Providers. I don't freaking
Repositories.
know. That's right. You can find them there. Please like, rate,
yes,
follow, share, all that good stuff.
Share us.
Get it out.
Share us. Especially with all your maple loving friends. Your maple and murder loving friends.
That's right.
I gotta find us a maple syrup.
If you like high fructose corn syrup with maple flavoring instead, we still accept you. I do.
Yes, we do.
You might not.
I will accept you because it's more syrup for me. However,
Anyway,
don't be surprised if you see me licking a plate that's got maple syrup on it after I'm done with eating the waffles.
Fair enough.
Just a fair warning.
I do that with the fake shit.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Apparently, I really like maple flavored corn syrup. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys.
Yes. We hope you enjoyed it. Have a good week.
Bye.
Bye.